In 2026, the United States marks its semiquincentennial, 250 years since the Declaration of Independence. The milestone is designed to project democratic longevity and a shared heritage of overcoming division. Yet, this anniversary arrives precisely as modern democracies experience a severe epistemic fracture. The very mechanisms we use to agree on basic facts are breaking down. This fragmentation of factual consensus stems from a deliberate structural transformation of the media landscape. The shared baseline of reality required for civic deliberation is dissolving. In its place, we find a patchwork of competing realities, each validated by emotional resonance and group identity rather than empirical evidence. This makes the anniversary uniquely vulnerable. The entire concept of a shared historical narrative is under structural assault by coordinated digital manipulation. The erosion of truth we are experiencing is deliberate. It is the highly engineered output of a profit-driven ecosystem. We are witnessing the industrialization of misinformation. Clickbait economics, combined with the scale of artificial intelligence, function as a modern machinery designed to systematically generate and distribute falsehoods. Propaganda no longer relies entirely on top-down, state-controlled broadcasts. It has evolved into decentralized algorithmic warfare. To grasp this threat, we have to deconstruct the modern disinformation factory. We need to examine the shift to algorithmic curation and analyze exactly how this machinery weaponizes national symbolism. Defending the 250th anniversary requires mapping the structural mechanics of the disinformation supply chain that threatens it. For much of the mid-20th century, information flowed through a one-to-many broadcast model. Established media institutions, professional journalists, and editorial boards acted as primary gatekeepers. They filtered and verified news before it reached the public, maintaining a baseline standard of facts. Cold War states utilized this exact same centralized architecture to dictate single realities. Whether democratic or authoritarian, control over the distribution channel meant control over the narrative. This diagram illustrates the shift. On the left, a centralized hub. The internet demolished these gatekeepers, fracturing information into a decentralized mesh network. But this structure quickly reorganized, routing traffic through proprietary, opaque algorithmic cores. The removal of human verification buffers transferred editorial power directly to these algorithms, systems engineered specifically to maximize user engagement. To maximize that engagement, these systems rely on emotional politics. They are designed to keep users on the screen for as long as possible. This diagram maps the psychological exploit. Human cognitive limits and the natural drive for confirmation bias make us susceptible to information that feels immediately satisfying. The algorithm mathematically prioritizes content that triggers viral outrage. Angry, fearful, or highly sensational material bypasses critical scrutiny, while nuanced, complex data is deflected or ignored. Every reaction, a click, a share, a few seconds of watch time, is tracked as an output vector. The system uses this behavioral data to feed the user increasingly extreme content, creating a rapid, self-reinforcing feedback loop. At scale, populations are systematically segregated into bespoke digital affective ecosystems. These groups become totally insulated from opposing viewpoints and objective corrections. Viral outrage bypasses critical reflection because the platform's mathematical architecture demands it for survival. This demand for engagement sustains an entire shadow economy, the clickbait industry. This flowchart maps the disinformation supply chain. Disinformation factories operate primarily as profit centers rather than ideological purists. Content seeders identify trending social fractures and use synthetic generators to rapidly produce fabricated narratives. These headlines are engineered specifically to provoke curiosity and outrage. The resulting high-volume traffic flows directly into ad exchanges and data brokers. Programmatic ad platforms automatically monetize this traffic. They do not verify whether the content is true. They only measure its algorithmic amplification as it hits segmented echo chambers. Complex layers of web domains and content farms shield the identities of the producers. This ensures that advertising capital flows steadily backward to fund further fabrication. Misinformation has become a commodified attention market. Societal outrage translates directly into capital. This commercial architecture is increasingly augmented by propaganda automation infrastructures, with artificial intelligence acting as a severe threat multiplier. AI scales the disinformation economy exponentially. Deepfakes and automated bot networks allow small teams to generate tailored, hyper-realistic propaganda at speeds traditional gatekeepers cannot match. State-sponsored adversaries recognize this capability. Russian, Chinese, and other foreign cyber operations actively leverage this pre-existing commercial architecture. These adversaries rarely need to build new propaganda networks from scratch. They identify existing domestic fault lines and inject strategic, divisive narratives straight into the outrage-optimized supply chain. Foreign powers weaponize the algorithmic economy. They transform domestic digital platforms into an active theater for asymmetric psychological warfare. This brings us back to the year 2026 and the U.S. Semiquincentennial celebrations. A milestone of this scale functions as an ideological Rorschach test. It draws intense international scrutiny and provides a highly visible target for adversarial intervention. Looking at our threat model diagram, state actors and clickbait entrepreneurs feed the event's patriotic imagery, dates, and historical footage directly into the disinformation machinery. The algorithm processes this shared history and systematically dissects it based on individual user profiles. It serves up radically different, incompatible versions of the event, designed to exploit specific cultural anxieties. Through this mechanism, the semi-quincentennial is converted from a unifying national moment into an accelerator of domestic polarization. When competing realities exist in impenetrable digital enclaves, the shared epistemology required for democratic governance collapses. Citizens cannot deliberate if they cannot agree on basic facts. The post-truth condition is a direct mathematical consequence of our current digital architecture. Simple fact-checking is insufficient to counter an industrial-scale problem. Societies must disrupt the financial incentives of disinformation factories and mandate transparency in algorithmic governance. We must rebuild civic epistemic resilience. This requires rigorous media literacy, equipping individuals to recognize emotional manipulation. Ensuring the democratic experiment reaches its next milestone depends on dismantling the industrial machinery of lies and reclaiming the integrity of the digital public sphere.